So we're just going to do a quick video here on chasing the mob, actually trying to stay ahead of the mob when it comes to trading. I had a couple of really good examples of that here this morning. You could see how it worked. First thing this morning, the stock that was popping was the GLG. And this is where the mob was this morning. This was a strong pre-market. And it popped. Now let's have a look at FTF. FTFT, sorry. So we can see that this morning on the GLG, it was quite strong pre-market. Popped and then sold off. But then we got this huge volume came into it. In the first 2 minutes, it traded 3 million shares. And in this area here, but it then popped and got through that, and the volume did dry up a bit, but it took off and then pulled back on lighter volume. So when it started to pull back here, this is, people were taking their profits. And so they have all this money now, and they've made money on it, and they're looking for the next trade. And so this is where you see the FTF. It was very strong pre-market, but it gapped down. And about the same time that, if I could overlay these two charts, about the same time that FTF took off in here, you would see that on GLG, that it was pulling back in here. So the traders, they buy it early, they ride this pop, they sell. Now they've got their capital and they're looking for the next trade. And then so they go to the one that's all of a sudden, now there was big volume on this, and so people were watching this, but it sold off sharply. And but at the time the GLG is selling off, this stock is going up. So the money moved out of GLG and then moved into FTF, and then it sold off. Then we can see that after this sold off, this was the FTF ran, and then FTF sold off, and this is the time here that the GLG pops the second time around, when the FTF sells off. So these are just, if I could overlay the two, you'd see that they were, well, let's see if I can, just one moment. Let's... So I put the two charts side by side here, and we see that this was a very strong movement up, and then spiked a bit. So all these people that were buying in here, they were sellers, and then the short sellers came in, and it sold off very sharply. At that same time, you can see that this sold off, but now this money comes into the market here, and it takes off, and that coincides with this pullback here. This spike here is this pullback here. Then this spikes again, and this pulls back. And then this pulls back, and this one spikes. And then in here, then they both start going together. But that's later in the day now, later in the trade. This is where the mob goes. You can see by looking at this how the money is chasing these stocks around. And when one sells, then they go to the next one. And they trade the next one, and you can sort of follow and see where it's going to go next. And this really shows that this is a very good example of how the mob moves through the market.